rooted in an experience of the resurrected Christ. There would be no New Testament without experience of the resurrected Christ. That's where it all starts. That's where faith starts for most of us, is with that sense of experience of God's presence. That moves us and that makes us want to explore. We want to be a church where people can explore what it means for them to be a disciple of Jesus Christ, walking the way of Jesus in the context that they live in Nottingham in 2024. What does it mean to be a disciple of the way of Jesus? That is an open question which we're always called to explore as Christians. And the answers, I believe, can change for us as individuals from time to time. Sometimes to be a disciple of the way of Jesus is a call to celebrate. Sometimes it's a call to protest. Sometimes it's a call to support the weak and the vulnerable. Sometimes it's a call to rest and bask in God's presence. So what does it mean? But we also want to be a church which engages with community, which doesn't just look inward but looks outward, and which enables differences to be overcome. So the shorthand of that is to experience, to explore and to engage, to experience God, to explore the way of Jesus and to engage with community. That's what we're continuing to do. That vision, I think, is still really helpful for us as a church community to gather around those things. I wonder which of those 3 E's you feel you need to be concentrating on in your walk with Jesus at this time. There's a thought for you. Another question, real quick. What are our distinctive values? As part of our vision document back in 2021, we came up with some values that we recognised would be things we would try and do, or the way we would try and do things at St Paul's, that would be distinctive. So what I mean by distinctive is they're things that, well, there's lots of things that we always want to value as a church. Love, goodness, truth. We could think of any number of list of values of things that we would wish to assume are always present as we gather as Jesus' people. But we came up with a list of distinctive values that we would try and represent in all that we do. Does anyone know what they are? That is a harder question. No? Well, let's look at them now, because it's a good thing to keep reminding ourselves of, and we'll hear me talk about these more as we go forward into this year. We'll go forward another slide, I think. It's doing itself, sorry. Oh, there it goes again. I don't know why it's doing that. Is that something I've said? Who knows? Anyway, the distinctive values that we're using are invitation and grace, generosity and celebration, inclusion and safety. Those are things we would like to be really good at St Paul's. Invitation and grace, generosity and celebration, inclusion and safety. I won't go for a big long talk about those now, but I think that we're good at some of those. I think we're quite good at inclusion, we're quite good at generosity. Maybe we've been good at celebration, but let's keep doing that. Maybe I'll say more about some other qualities, some other values that we need to better embody as we go forward. But I will say this, we are a church, I believe, that has prioritised, since COVID really, we have prioritised in many respects, or we've moved in the direction of being a church which offers a generous engagement with community. That sense of engaging with community and that sense of generosity and celebration has led us to a generous engagement with our community. Through everything we've been doing with our cafe, what we initially referred to as our cafe and social eating project, we've recently received funding, of course, for a continued and expanded project over 3 years from the National Lottery, which is very exciting. We have Layla here, who is our project coordinator for what we do with our community engagement. And I'd like to invite Layla to come up. Are you happy to stand, or shall I get your seat? You can stand there. Perfect. We had an opportunity to ask Layla some questions about our community projects, what we do. I'm going to invite you to speak for just a couple of minutes really on this. And my initial question to you was around the idea of where have we been?
No, you don't start first.
Well, I can do, or do you want me to see straight into it? Okay. And if we go to the next couple of slides now, then never mind. There's a slide from the community project. We can put it later as well, that's fine. If it's falling over, don't worry. But we had a slide there for the community project from the report which I haven't mentioned those things, but we'll come back to it. So, It's leaping on. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. So, do you want to think about where we've been as community project? Ignore it. Don't worry. Get rid of it. I'll talk us through it. Sorry, I don't know what that's going on.
Good afternoon. So we began last year with the main aim really to consolidate what we grow. The community project started with a bang, and we wanted to really look after it last year and advocate for the community, really cherish it and look after the people involved and the projects that we're involved with. So some of the highlights, the community garden, making some huge inroads into that. The memory and movement group, we've gone from memory group to memory and movement over the last year, and it's a privilege to be part of it, if I'm honest. It's an absolute joy each week. We're now involved with Inspire through the library for the memory group, but they keep offering us things. They want to work with us, so we've got a number of courses that we're actually linking in with Inspire now. Our volunteer team just goes from strength to strength. Such a loyal, committed team of people, and I think a credit to everyone who's involved in managing them, that actually we don't change volunteers very often. We seem to acquire volunteers and then they stay. So it's wonderful to work with the volunteers that we've got within the community project. Our social eating evenings, or events, as they become, I think the Greek night stands out. I think we ran out of food. The barbecue on the sweltering heat, but it was an amazing day or amazing afternoon, but it was a good one, and a number of fairly chaotic film nights, but they were fun too. So yeah, some of the highlights of how we're trying to develop the social and social eating and wellbeing side of the project. So as we came to the end of the year, we thought it might be a good idea, if we wanted to continue this work, we needed funding. And so, as Tim had mentioned, the application to the lottery, to showcase what we've done and to put the idea forward of what we could continue doing. And it didn't actually take that long in the end to get an answer. We were thinking maybe a couple of months, but February came around and we got that answer, and we were so delighted that they were supporting us, so trusting in us with the ideas that we were planning to put forward. And so through listening to our church and wider community, we can now continue this offer. And it's wonderful, and I thought it's a privilege to be heading it and being part of it. And I think we have grown organically. We listen carefully to everybody who's involved in our project and try and respond according to the need. And we can now continue that. We wouldn't have been able to do that without the lottery funding. So that's a great position to be in for 2024. So we want to continue what we're doing, but in some ways go deeper into certain areas that we feel are key to the project. The wellbeing part, the spiritual part of our project. We want to grow our steering group in capacity so that we can listen harder and move and be guided by our community, by those involved or who want to get involved. We need to grow our volunteer group to be able to respond to that capacity. We don't want lots more projects, we just want to do what we're doing well, and that will take more volunteers, so it's something we need to do this year. Fundraising is something that I think needs to be a bigger part of what we do to support working with the church and the building that we use. A little bit decorating might be needed at some point, but for these things to happen, I think practically we need to think about fundraising and how we're going to support ourselves. A carers group, we have got nearly 30 people coming to us each week to our memory and movement group, and we've got a chair-based yoga group that runs on a Wednesday now, which could quite easily, we can't get it that big, but quite easily go in the same direction. But we're very aware of working with groups of people that some come with a number of needs, some don't come with many needs, but actually there's carers within there that could actually do with a voice or an ear each week too. And so the carers group is a priority for this year. And then a large part that Tim and I have spoken about for probably 18 months now, that's the spiritual side. We just haven't had capacity to really offer what we really want to do. And so we're really excited, it actually starts on Tuesday, the recruitment of our community connector. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
That is the title. The community connector role, which we hope will help us with capacity to offer more time for reflection. You know, that spiritual need regularly being offered, deliberately being offered, and with confidence with somebody as a physical presence in the cafe, and yeah, sharing and celebrating what we do, but also signposting to things that we may be able to offer. So it's a very different year to last year because we have some new things, but in some ways it's a refining and just shaping what we've done. So it's an exciting year, hopefully.
Fantastic, thank you. So you've mentioned the spiritual input, which we're hoping to increase this year. We're also going to be opening the cafe more.
Yeah, so we've actually been trialling it over the, I think they call it soft opening, maybe.
Yeah.
I think anyone knows anything about that. But yeah, I think we've been trialling it over the last month to see what it feels like to be open more hours. We're not advertising it, but just seeing what it feels like for the team that are managing that, because obviously that means more volunteers and more staff management, and it's not a huge shift for us. I don't think Helen might be saying something like that. But yeah, so there will be an increase in hours. The Wednesdays we're going to be open in the mornings. Sunday mornings we're planning to be open to church and community. So there will be a little shift here and there with the increase of the hours of opening, which again will impact on the amount of volunteers we need involved in the project to help.
And if I can just sort of jump in there, I mean, one thing the ladies mentioned is we are going to trial having the cafe open on a Sunday morning whilst worship is going on. What the change will be there, that's when the youth group use that. If the cafe is open on a Sunday morning, the youth group won't be able to be in there. So that's something we have to do in negotiation with the youth group, but they're up for it. But the trial is going to be involving having the cafe open, but the service on the screen being beamed through, as a place where people can come in, have a coffee on a Sunday morning, but be part, in some respects, of the worship of the church, and there'd be a sense of invitation into come and worship with us. So we don't know how that's going to go. We don't know if it'll be a long-term thing, but we're going to try it and see how it goes. So we, ask for your support in that church as we try that. I think that's really exciting to be able to invite people to come in on a Sunday morning, and the worship is on the screen. We can do that. We have the tech. Thank you. Have you got anything more you want to say at this point, or should we invite some questions from the floor?
No, I think that's
well, I want to say a massive thank you for all Leila does. Part of the joy of the National Lottery Fund is that we can give Leila proper wage for what she does. She has been working full-time, really, for a little while without getting paid for it. When she says in 2023 we talked about, well, we focused on trying to maintain what we were doing. Part of that is because Leila was working too many hours and making amazing things happen, and we didn't want to burn anyone out. But it's a joy that we can at least pay you now for something that you're approaching what you do. And so I'd like to offer a big round of applause to Leila and all. And to all who volunteer and work in the cafe, and it's a little bit, what's the word? I'm less likely to mention this, I think, than some other people, but I also want to put a shout out to Helen, who operates as cafe manager, without any fear that this is nepotism. Helen does a wonderful job as cafe manager, and her baking is legendary already in the local community. Can we give Helen a Thank you, Leila. Have you got any questions for Leila at this point about the cafe community project? I'm going to ask you one question if no one else does. I don't see any questions. I'm going to ask you one question.
Can I actually just respond with the J9?
Yes.
Because it's just, hot off the press, I have actually got a meeting with Ruth Edwards in the not so far distant future, and one of her comments was about Jane Iron and our involvement, and I think she would like it to be a bigger presence here, so she's interested in that. So
she does give us all the material she said about.
That was the number one on her agenda.
So Ruth Edwards MP has got in touch with, heard about what we're doing and got in touch and wants to know more. That's exciting. I want to ask you a question. The question is this. We've spoken about our cafe and social eating projects for 18 months or 2 years now. What is the language we're moving to, the language we use from Lottery, for explaining or naming our community projects? Now, you may not know what I'm going with this, so I may trip you up. I'm not trying to.
What is it, St Paul's Wellbeing?
Community Wellbeing Hub is what I'm getting.
Yeah.
So that's the language. Do you want to tell us what that again? Just say those words to us again.
St Paul's Community Wellbeing Hub.
That's the language we're moving towards for the explaining community project. Is St Paul's Community Wellbeing Hub. So if I call it the Cafe and Social Eating Project, you have my permission to say, no, it's St Paul's Community Wellbeing Hub. That's kind of what we're looking at. The language I'm getting.
Yeah, I mean, I think, just to finish on that, sorry, I was over, but I think I wanted to share the outcomes of what the main outcomes of the project.
Yeah, please do.
Because I think they succinctly, if I had a slide, I would have put it up, but I didn't. But they succinctly share what we are trying to achieve, and it was 4 that we put forward on. I've actually got my whole job description laid out for the next 3 years, so I know what I need to do, which is super, but the outcomes are fairly simply put: to improve the cohesion of the community, to reduce social isolation and loneliness, support mental health and well-being, and address the impact of the cost of living. And that's what we're trying to work towards.
Fantastic. Can we get a round of applause? Right then, so it just falls for me to say a little bit now, just a couple of minutes, about priorities for the church as we go forward, and then we will be coming towards the end of our time together. We've got a few priorities that we've identified going forward as a church for this year through the PCC. We have some opportunities. One opportunity is to deploy some funding offered by the diocese for more time for children and youth ministry. So Leslie has been fantastic doing what she does. The diocese have offered us further support for that. We've identified that it might be possible to employ someone to do a couple of projects that Leslie simply does not have time to do, including football church and a youth drop-in during the week at the Wellbeing Hub, at the Cafe and Wellbeing Hub. So we haven't got any further than coming up with a job description. The diocese have promised us the funds. They're waiting for us to press go on it, and we will be doing that soon. So I don't have much more to say about that, but it's an offer of money for specific projects from the diocese. Why would we say no? So we're going to try and say yes to that and try and expand those projects. We also have an opportunity to get involved with having a minibus. This is something which Layla has brought about through filling in an expression of interest form in council funding, which turned into a bid that she didn't realise she was making. So upon receipt of the expression of interest form, where she put, well, we'd like to think about funding for a minibus at some point, the council just turned around and said, yeah, you can have it. So we have an opportunity to get a minibus. Now, it's a slightly complicated conversation, because the amount of money involved is not huge for this project. It's about, let's call it £20,000. We'll be looking for a second-hand minibus. There is one identified. We'll be looking to try, however, and find the presumed £3,000 to £4,000 annual running costs for that, which is not part of the council's funding package. So whilst we have said, yes, we're going to go with this, we haven't got all the answers yet for how this is going to work. But we feel it would be a great opportunity. We can even imagine bringing people to church on a Sunday morning, certainly from local care homes and things like that. One thing that we really do need to identify is someone who would be willing and able to take a sense of oversight over this project. It would be someone who would be confident to think about maintenance schedules and servicing for a van, who would be confident to kick tyres, who would be confident to sort out, whatever needs to be sorted out with the van, who could take a little bit of ownership for the minibus. Naylor would support you, absolutely. So if anyone here is thinking, I could do that, I could help run a St Paul's minibus, then that's a way you could get involved. Just think about that for a moment. So that is something else which may happen over the next year. I'm hoping it will happen, but there is a little bit more work we need to do really on finding someone to run it, and then thinking about how we're going to find the £3,000 or £4,000 a year that it simply will cost to run a minibus. But it's an exciting idea. I want to say something quickly about priorities for us as a church. I started off this segment by saying that over the last couple of years we have been a church which has prioritised, in some respects, generous engagement with community. And I think that is a wonderful thing. I said I'd mention that takes different forms. I said I'd mention inclusive church. Part of that engagement is by deliberately signposting that we are an inclusive church, that we do not discriminate on grounds of economic or racial or sexual or gender differences. We try to make sure that we think deeply about how we will also be inclusive of people who may experience neurodiversity or learning challenges or just simple good old-fashioned mental health struggles. And that's a hard thing to do. The inclusive church thing is famous for being a marquee thing to do. That is to do with a welcome to same-sex attracted people, to LGBTQI plus people. That is something which is important to us here at St Paul's, which we believe we can do biblically and faithfully as offerers of God's love to all, and that really matters. The harder part is almost the other stuff, is welcoming people who are neurodiverse, welcoming people who may be experiencing symptoms of dementia. There's a lot of moving parts to that, but that is important to us. That's part of our generous engagement with community. Eco-church is part of our generous engagement with the wider community of the world. It's something which is going to remain part of what we do this year. Big thanks to Wendy Pearce, particularly for leading on Eco-church. Our garden is part of our Eco-church agenda. So that's been our priority in some respects, or what we've felt God doing over the last couple of years. As I think and as I pray about where God is taking us now as a church, what's come to me really is that we need to be a church now which invites people into God's presence, into that experience in worship. We need to be focusing and prioritising our Sunday morning life as much as anything else, or more than anything else. We have this wonderful, generous engagement with community. That's not going anywhere. But we want to be able to offer people an invitation to experience God for themselves. The Community Connector role at the Community Hub will be part of doing that. They'll be offering people spiritual engagement, offering people meditation resources from the Christian faith, offering people the chance to get involved in faith, to ask questions about faith. That will be part of that. But really, I would suggest that a key thing that we need to do is to be a congregation on a Sunday which does three things better, or which grows in three areas. And this is something which we've already done a bit of this year. The first, I would say, is prayer. I want to invite us to be a congregation, a Sunday morning group of people, and a congregation throughout the week that grows in prayer this coming year. Everything that we do as a church will be through God's action and God's power. It's God who will build and who is building St Paul's Church. Prayer is a priority. One thing that, as I prioritise this year, I've been speaking to Reverend Hilary, about putting together a prayer diary for the church. That is something which we're going to try and make sure happens in the coming weeks and months. I also want to get involved in, or start monthly prayer meetings. Got a couple of ideas how that might work. We might do something in the morning and something in the evening bi-monthly. We might try some prayer breakfasts or things like that. So you will hear more about that as we go forward into the year, I hope. I want us to prioritise prayer. I really do. I want to prioritise participation. We've had a bit of lay preaching already this year. We will have more as we go forward. We started off the year by thinking about how we can all bring our gifts to participate in the life of God's church in this place. And that's something which I really do want to continue to think about as we go forward into the year. What is the way you can participate in what we are doing? We are stronger when we all pull on that rope together. And that sense of participation is theologically important and rooted in Trinitarian theology. Theology fans out there, rooted in God's invitation to participation in the divine. But we also want to be people who invite others to participate in community. And in our worship, I would like us to have a wider participation in worship, whether in musical worship, whether in preaching, whether in intercessions, whether in leading and services. I'd like to see wider participation as we go forward. The third one is invitation. I would love us to be confident, to be people who invite others into worship on a Sunday morning, into whatever else that we're doing. Now, part of that is about having worship which we're prepared to invite people to, because we believe that it is a welcoming and a effective, shall we say, space. We struggled with musical worship for a little while as a church. We're getting better, we're getting more musicians involved, and that is improving. COVID was a difficult time for us coming out of that. But part of that also is being confident as individual followers of Jesus that we know what it is to be a follower of Jesus. That we're confident to invite others to have what we have. And if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what I have from being a follower of Jesus, well, you have probably more than you think. You have a community, you have a family, you have people who are with you, and you have an eternal hope. But you also have hopefully a sense of God's presence with you. And that is something which we want to be confident about inviting people to experience this year. So those are three things for me that I want us to prioritise on. I want our priority to be really focused around inviting people into worship, around participation in worship, and about prayer. For all that God is doing. Thank you. We are coming up to the hour, so we are going to bring this meeting to a halt. I do want to offer an opportunity for final questions from anybody, and then we're going to close in prayer before we meet as a newly constituted PCC for the first time. So has anyone got any final questions about anything which has been brought out over the last hour or so? Please do. Yeah, Hazel.
Layla was on about decoration and decorating whatever, but can you please have some fundraising for some new boiler? Yeah.
Yes, the answer is yes. The answer is yes, and we're already starting that journey. So Charlie has already engaged conversations with architects about what that could be. We've made decisions at PCC to prioritise this going forward for this year. You know, I'll be honest, it's an open question as to how we would do this. At the very least, we're going to spend some money, we hope and believe, on upgrading our facilities internally. There are different options available to us. Options that would be including knocking down some internal walls and seeing how we could better utilise the space. The dream option is that we would somehow find a way of extending the physical space. That probably isn't on the cards anytime soon. But there may be a middle way of knocking some internal walls down, doing some reorganising and improving the toilet facilities. It is a priority, I agree. If anyone has got any rich relatives, or let us know. We cannot get funding from the National Lottery for improving our loos. We did ask about that. And they said no. I mean, well, actually what they said was, yes, we could, but you'd have to match fund it. You'd have to have a planning commission in place, which would involve getting a church faculty commission in place, which would involve having all the architect stuff done, which is a 2 or 3 year process anyway, probably. So external funding is possible, but not from the lottery. Does that help a little bit? Yeah. Any other questions, folks, about anything that we've spoken about so far? Okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to close in prayer. Can I
just, on behalf of the congregation and the wider community, extend our thanks to you, Tim, and your family for all that you do for St Paul's, for your commitment, your vision, your patience, your enthusiasm. There is so much to be looking forward to, so much to be thankful for, and so much more to come. And I just, on behalf of everybody, want to thank you and your family for all that you are to St Paul's.
Thank you so much. It's a huge privilege. So, and I believe the best is yet to come. So let's enjoy 2024. Let's pray. Loving God, we thank you for the promise of your presence. We thank you that you're the one who draws alongside us as we walk. That you reveal your presence to us in the breaking of the bread. I pray that this year we may grow as a church community in confidence, in ambition, but in trust in your presence. May we grow in prayer. May we grow in participation. May we grow in invitation. As we confidently step forward into the future of our Community Hub project, may we also see our worshipping community grow in depth and breadth. And above all, may we experience the joy of your presence. Amen. Amen. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all that you do as part of your life in St Paul's. And you may go unless you are a member of St Paul's PCC, in which case we're going to have a really